I got out here about 9 o'clock this morning. The water temperature was 55. It was cool. By about 9:30, the sun was out, bright sunny skies, about a 2 to 3 mile an hour wind. I didn't want to go make a long run today. I wanted to stay close to Paradise Point, so I wasn't going to move around a whole lot. I got 4 or 5 hours that I'm going to fish out here. So I went to a bank that I fished before, and I've caught a few fish on it. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. What I found when I got on that bank was there were fish there, and I saw some really nice fish. So what we're going to do today is I'll go over what I think I'm going to have to do today to try and catch some fish. I know it's going to be super tough, and I am going to stay on this bank. It's, I'll say, a mile, maybe a mile and a half. Come along with me and see what I'm doing on this particular bank. I'll share some ideas what I think will help me to catch fish. I don't know if I'm going to catch any fish today, and I really don't care. What I'm looking for primarily is to see where the groups of fish are, and when I find those groups of fish, even if they're not biting, I want to look in that area that all looks the same, but I know that somewhere on that bank that looks exactly the same, there's going to be some deep water, there's going to be some open spots, there's going to be some places that I don't want to fish that are overgrown. There may be a few troughs in next to the bank, or I may have to go all the way out to the middle of the river to find a trough that the fish are going to feed in. I don't know if they're going to be shallow, deep, whatever. Here's what I've done so far, and two things that I expected to do today was put on a spinner bait and also a jerk bait. I didn't even use the spinner bait. I did throw the jerk bait a lot, and I've decided that because of the water clarity, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but we've got about 6 or 8 feet of visibility. Bluebird day, the fish are just being scared away by those bigger baits that are putting out too much vibration. They're just not, I just don't feel like I can catch them on that today. So I am going to fish a drop shot, and I might go to a 4-inch worm. I might put on a Ned rig. I will definitely be throwing a weedless wacky worm. This is that billows stick that I've been talking about, and I've been catching fish on that. So today's going to be a good day to put that to the test to see if I can get anything going. Now here's something that I am going to be trying that you don't see me do much of. I have an ultralight rod, and I've got a little white crappie jig. I may be throwing that around a little bit. Heck, maybe I'll catch a crappie or a perch, but I want to see if the bass are reacting to really small baits, and never underestimate the little white marabou crappie jig fish out here. Now, do I expect to land anything much on this crappie rod with 6-pound test? No, but guess what? If I hook a couple of fish and I see that the fish are keying in on those smaller baits, I'll start adjusting at that point. Here's what I did do this morning, and I caught one fish. Oops, where is it? On this little guy here, an underspin, and it's just a 1/4 ounce underspin. It's a Mega Bass Spark Shad, and I really like this, and I prefer it over the Kitex because this particular bait is softer than a Kitex, and I think it moves. The tail moves at a slower retrieve, so I can retrieve this bait slower than I can a Kitex. I'm going to keep that on because I got a couple of bites, and let me show you something here. Got to get out of the camera for just a second. All right, here we go. This is the fish that I got with that little spark shad, and I also wanted to talk about how I have this fish hooked up here. Make sure if you are going to make a tether like I have, that when you hook these fish, they're not in the gills. They're up right underneath the mouth. They're not cut through the lip. And what I do on this, and I'm going to release this fish, I just caught him, and I put him on this tether, what I made, just to show you guys the fish. I may not catch another fish. I got this one. Let me put him back. Let me go over this thing. It's just a little tether that I have from that I made from it's a clip from an old stringer. I've got about 2 or 3 feet of line on it, and what I do is I keep this real close so that if I get a big fish and I want to take a picture of them, and I don't have the live well full of water, or I have a place to put the fish to keep him out of the water, I can stick this fish carefully, not through the gills, but just up under the chin. Tether them on here, put this up to the cleat of my boat, leave them there for a minute while I get the camera ready, while I set up the photo. I can pull them out, get them off of this, take a picture, and get that fish back in the water. Don't leave those big fish or any fish out of the water longer than what you could breathe. So if you guys are in that situation, make yourself up a little tether like this, and it'll keep those fish alive while you're getting ready to take the shot. Okay, let's check out right where I'm at. We've got a slough coming in right here. Lots of good water flow. It's hitting that bank right over there. So what we have is deep water along that bank over there. Obviously, on the other side of that floating hydrilla, there's a lane in there, and I've got 10 or 12 feet of water, and it goes all the way down for about 200 yards, and then when that water slows down, it gets very weedy. I'm seeing all the fish down below in the weeds. I'm not seeing as many fish up here. They're down here. So just think about this. Deep water, moving water right out here. As we get down 300-400 yards, it gets weeded up. When I set the boat drift up and I have the current moving this way towards the camera, you're going to see that the underwater submerged vegetation is all leaning down current, and if my fingers are the tips of the hydrilla, it's base down here, it's leaning over, and that hydrilla is just floating in the current. So what I don't want to do is go with the current, go down with the current and try to throw my baits up through this way and getting them through the submerged vegetation. I want to go downriver and come up, point the bow of the boat into the current, so that when I'm throwing my baits, I'm getting them out here, and as I throw them down, maybe they'll drop through and come up, drop through and come up, but they're going to hang up a lot less. So think about that. When you get a good strong current, instead of drifting with the current, turn your nose into the current, throw upstream. Try not to cross cut from the boat to the bank, but get in tight where you want to be fishing. If you're fishing in 4 or 5 feet of water, stay in close to the bank. Make your cast into 2 or 3 feet of water, out to 6 feet of water, bring it back. Or if they're a little deeper, you can position your boat or your kayak out a little farther from shore and maybe hit that 8 to 10, 12, even 14 feet of water. But you're always going to be throwing upstream and bringing it back to the boat. So think. Oh, inline worm hook with just a 5-inch Cinco on it, no weight. Set the hook. So I'm going to try this technique a little bit more. The keys to it are in clear water, making a long cast, keeping the bait low to the water, dropping your rod tip right down in the water, pointing it at the bait, letting it get down to right here. We have about 5 feet of depth. It gets down in about 3 or 4 seconds, and then just slowly keeping contact with the bait back to the boat. Every now and then, if you feel it get hung up, you just give it a little tip, a little jerk, and then let it drop back down. And remember, I have this bait rigged up so that it is totally weedless. Here's a little trick I do sometimes on a bank like this. It's a total rock bank. When I want to get in close, I don't want to get my boat in and get it banged up on the rocks. I've got one little patch of hyacinth here, and I could pull up, let the wind blow my boat into the hyacinth. The hyacinth is acting as a bumper, so I can pull in tight without getting fouled up on the rocks. And what this allows me to do is make a super long cast and basically remain motionless, and I can fish it really, really slow. All right. Wow. Slow down, buddy. All right, got that one on a weightless worm and just super slow-mo. Not a big fish, but I'm gonna take it. Never felt the bite. Just as I touched the worm, I felt a little resistance and I could see the line moving, and I reeled down and sat on him. You know, that last little fish that I caught wasn't a big one, but on days like today, you've got to rejoice with every bite you get, and if you're lucky enough to hook one and land one, hallelujah. There's another one. What the heck's going on here? Woo! I don't care, I'm catching fish. I know there's bigger ones down there. Well, that one's a little bigger. That one might even keep on a 12-inch day. Be real close. Pretty fish. Today, the fish did not want to chase anything. It was just a total finesse bite. And for those of you who are out there on your Delta rats and you're fishing it, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I really think as the Delta goes and this water keeps clearing up, we've got more and more weed growth, which is actually helping to clear the water up. We're going to have to start thinking more finesse tactics here on the Delta. And I'm not talking about finesse tactics like we would use up at Maloney's or Berryessa, but Delta finesse. We're going to have to make longer casts. We may have to go with lighter leaders. We may have to go with smaller baits. There's always going to be a power fishery out here, especially during the spring and the summer months, but during the winter we may just have to get real finesse angler, and this is what I did. But I was really just kind of concentrating on the feel of that worm popping through the hydrilla, knowing when that, just watching the line, watching it jump when you get that little tick, or watching it move over, or just get that feel, and that's what makes you better. Even though I've done it a million times, today I was really able to focus in on that. I caught a lot of small fish, and it really helps your feel. It helps you get dialed in so that next time when I'm out here, that little tick in the line may not be a 6-incher, it may be a 6-pounder, but I'll know how it feels, and I'll be in tune with that, and I'll have a much better shot at knowing when that happens and setting the hook and getting that big fish. So hopefully, you know, I was able to share with you how I was fishing a little bit today. You might be able to take something away from that, and maybe next time we'll get the big fish. But for now, came up and I wanted to punch around some of these poles and stuff, but as you can see, it's pretty much filled in. Didn't get a chance to do that, so I'm going to go home, watch a couple of episodes of Judge Judy, and I'll be back out in a couple of days. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll see you on the river.